Now, there is that age-old debate about change of names when it comes to relationships. I remember growing up and taking a look at some papers, and I'll see cutouts, different little cutouts, and say change of names. I was once Miss this, I am now Mrs. This, and all of that. Well, today we have Miracle Ihuoma, and we're going to be talking about that change of name, that debate from a professional and expert angle, and understand what all the ruckus and all of that is about. It's great to have you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year once again. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. First of all, yeah, there is a debate about, let's identify the fact that is there really a debate about change of names? Is it something that has always been there, or maybe something that we can say it's just something coming up really? Because back then, I don't think there was so much of a debate, but these days you have people having compound names saying, okay, I want to keep my maiden name and you know, join with my husband's name and all of that. It wasn't so mainstay back then, but now it's the case now. So what is the debate now at this point?
Yeah. So the advent of things like social media and the different dispensations in terms of generations have actually given birth to a lot of people coming out to talk more about their innermost desires, things that were not there before now during our parents' time. Okay. So it looks like the debate about a change of name is only fruit of a tree, right? So what that means is, because there are a lot of other debates. For instance, people are a lot more aware and unwilling to stay in abusive relationships now than it used to be back then.
Yeah.
So it looks like people are gaining their voices more and then voicing out their innermost desires. Even though some of those innermost desires might not really be, will I say, authentic, because sometimes it's influenced by a lot of other things. But at least we are happy that, you know, people are speaking about these things, and of course that gives them the opportunity to be able to deal with them.
So what is your stance on this debate and all of that, as it were?
Yeah, so I believe that it differs from person to person. Okay. I wouldn't want to give a generic opinion about whether to keep the maiden name or, you know, embrace your husband's name and all of that. But you also need to consider a lot of things, one of which is culture. Because culture is important and has to be protected so that you don't then begin to have problems with your in-laws or even with your husband or wife, you know, herself or himself. Because sometimes there has to be some sort of congress and agreement between the both parties involved to say, okay, what do you think is obtainable? What do you think we should do? Right? So if for instance, I was getting married to an Otedolas daughter, I don't mind.
This guy.
I don't mind taking up. I don't mind taking up a name, man. Because that would open doors for me.
Wait. You are making it conditional now. You personally, what is it in your own situation? Would your wife, what if she insists that she wants to keep her name and all that? Would you allow it? If she insists that she wants to keep her own maiden name and says, I don't even want to use your own.
Why wouldn't she want to? We have to discuss it. Because we need to, a lot of the times, reasons why we do things are even more important than those things we do in themselves. So if she sheds light into...
I want to maintain my identity. She wants to maintain her identity.
Is her identity tied to her name?
Yeah, well, as it stands, when you're looking at about a government identity, so your social identity, it is tied to your name, because now she would have to change all her documents from her international passport to, you know, maybe a driving license and all of that. That is quite a lot. And she says, look, I want to maintain this identity. It's tied to my name. Yes, I have my own identity when it comes to my values and my characteristics and all that. But if it is by identification, for identification purposes, I don't want to do all of that. Would you allow that?
Well, for this reason, I would need to probe a bit further, right, and to have that discussion with her. Because name change is a lot more deeper than the exercise in itself. It communicates something, right? It communicates that you are ready to form because I believe that every family is a nation. You're ready to build a new nation with me. And if you are leaving one nation to another nation, then we should be able to build that nation together.
But this nation that you're talking about now, people now, due to different myriad of reasons, people who leave these nations, and then there's now an issue. Why are you keeping the name? It's my name. Give me back. Yes, for instance, let's talk about the one on social media that everybody's talking about, the Edochies and all of that has been going back and forth. Now, there's one people saying that the wife should drop the name so that she doesn't have the encumbrance that comes with it. She had to change every lot of things. We have a lot of popular people. The actress, Fetia Balogun, a number of people who something happened and they had to leave.
Yeah.
And so is the woman now reduced to a case of, okay, so if it's Jennifer Lopez now, she'll have like 5 names because of she has married 5 times. Why should the woman be to get to the place whereby her identity is based off the man? And then if something happens and she has to leave, I said, well, like you said, we're not as tolerant as our parents would be to abuse, as it were. So people now leave marriages, they know. So would she, if your wife has to leave you or something happens, that's not what we're talking about. Yeah. But then would she have to now be changing, okay, so she'll now have to revert back to her married name, all the documents, from travel documents, you know how it is, even to renew international passport with the same name. You know how it is. Imagine changing name, NIN, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Do you see where the challenges can come in from now?
I see that.
So what is your take on all those ones now? In those kind of situations now, where the also like a Doche, Fatia Balogun, in such situations like that. Because now they are saying that, look, yes, I cannot change the name, but the whole having to do all of that again to revert to a maiden name can be problematic.
Yeah. So first of all, right, nobody goes into marriage with the intention to divorce. So nobody, the person who has gotten married 5 times, did not say, okay, I'm going to get married 5 times, in my lifetime. No. Everybody wants to get married and stay married.
These days,
yeah, those are exceptions to the rule.
I was telling somebody that, look, I think marriage will get to a point whereby you have tenureship and say, look, after 3 years, let's go back. Do we want to continue? Yes, people.
They have got their contract marriages right now.
Yes, but but in these kind of situations, like you were saying, just
yes. So nobody has that intention to get married and divorce. So when it happens, it's something that it wasn't like it was intended to happen. So in those, and I believe that even when or if one wants to change the name, it should be transitional. We should give the person time, to be able to do that. But then person also wants to now ask, what are there legal implications to this? So what does the ex-husband want?
Exactly.
And all of that. So these are things that, because when people are getting...
I like where you came from, because you said, what are the legal implications? I'm not very sure of that one yet. Yeah. But like you said, the person now, for instance, the Edochie has now married, I don't know what the situation is on that place, another woman. Is that woman going to bear his name also? Yeah. So what happens now? They're separated from this. What happens to the former one?
Exactly.
So there's a whole lot of this going back. So maybe we should just all keep our names. So yes. So what do you think? I mean,
but we are all not going to get divorced. Right?
Yeah, well, I know. So, but the point is this.
And because a lot of the times, if you look at people who are married outweigh people who are divorced. Because a lot of the times we get the shenanigans of people are getting divorced, people are leaving the marriages.
Definitely.
We have a lot more people who are married than people who are getting divorced.
Okay, but now in a case of so what if it's a case of a compound name? So for me, I would personally not mind her name and my name.
Your first name, right?
Yes. No, my surname and her own. She can maintain her maiden name as a compound name.
Like a compound name with your surname?
With my surname.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I think that's an optimal.
Now I want to sound like the interviewer.
Yeah.
So when you now get married, or when
if something happens,
if something
have to separate,
gets to happen and gets separate, what happens to the compound?
So you see, that's where there's another challenge also. A lot of people don't want to go through the process of having to change their names a second time on documents. So they might have locked out, but they still keep that one. Now that's depending on the person. Yeah. You understand? But like you said, I don't know about the legal implications of keeping a name when if the other person decides to get married, there's another person.
So I think that
it's a whole lot of mess, you know.
So I think that we should now put more efforts into helping people stay married so that we will avoid this kind of complexities.
Well, that is there, but then it's a debatable fact. When stay married, is it the best thing for both of them in a particular situation?
Yeah,
it might not always be.
True.
But that's not the basis of what we're talking about here. We're talking about the debate on the change of name and all of that. But I'm saying that as a man, men should be a little bit more flexible to allow for maybe compound names.
Compound names, yes. A lot of people do compound names right now. Yes.
Because I think that maybe if there's a compound name, it's easier maybe for even the lady to still continue with that compound name. I don't know. Because that compound name is for her, it's not for you.
True.
It's not for the male, because the male keeps his own name. But she with that compound name now is such a way that I think, I think that it's a discussion that we'll continue having.
True.
But on the side of men, because, I mean, like you said, except he's a Totedolas daughter, if they tell you now, miracle.
I would gladly.
So if she leaves you, what will happen?
I have to keep that name. Or maybe I would have used that name to be
I'm
my
doubting
brand.
it's your expansive now. I know they trust you these days. You keep the name. But yeah, but you see, like you said, the name, and I've heard people say also, names open doors.
True.
I mean, we've seen, there's also this lady also, I mean, talking about actresses because they're the ones we know.
Yep.
There was the Alakija also, somebody gets married, or a Danjuma, for instance. We've seen this at different. You get married into a powerful name, and then you say, okay, that name has opened doors for you, and you want to keep it. I think that discussion will continue going.
Yeah.
But I would say that on my own, men should also be more flexible, because, like you said, there's a question there's something you put across when you said that identity, is it tied to the name, or is it you as a person? Yes, for social identification and for the government, it's tied to your name, but then there is an identity that you have as a person, you understand. But then for recognition and for social and all of that, you need that name and all of that. So moving forward, what would you what's that word? What would you say is the best, the optimal thing to do moving forward? Just your final words on this.
Okay, moving forward, I would say that, like I said when I started,
it
differs from person to person.
Okay.
Each person should sit down with themselves and then decide what is best for them.
For them.
Looking at the best interest of everybody involved. Right? And not be selfish in that situation.
All right. Thank you very much, Miracle, Ihuoma, or Tedola. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you very much.
That's a very strong day.
All right.
All right. Okay, that's it on the show for now when it comes to relationship. But take your time and I'll stay with us. The second lap is coming right up.